Hello everyone and welcome back to Terra Raid Counters. This time we're actually not dealing with a level 7 Mightiest Terra Raid, but instead we're dealing with the level 5 Dialga and Palkia Terra Raids that were specially promoted after the Pokemon trailer for the Indigo disc. And there's a lot of things that are actually kind of good for this thing, but all of them kind of revolve around the exact same idea, and it's not what you'd actually expect. So first, let's go over what these things have for moves. Both of these Pokemon have Draco Meteor and Fire Blast in their movesets, meant to counter other Dragon types and Ice types. Palkia has Hydro Pump and Thunder with the support status moves of Gravity, Rain Dance, with the Dialga having Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, Earth Power, and Steel Beam, with the support moves of Trick Room, Stealth Rocks, and Iron Defense. Dialga is very much the more difficult of these two to take on, both having a Steel subtyping naturally that gives it access to Steel Beam that is incredibly destructive to Fairy types, as well as Ice types, as well as just a better, bulkier stat line. Palkia is a little bit more on the frail side relative to Dialga. Both of these are fantastic to bulk to begin with, but not absurdly so like Dialga is. But before we get into the counters, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more. We've got a shiny giveaway coming up in a few weeks. If you want to get into for that, subscribe for more. There is a shiny Rayquaza that is up for grabs. The rewards for these raids are actually quite good. A whole lot of large experience candies, some pretty good chances at getting rare candies, a lot of calciums, a lot of self-fodder items, things like the Star Pieces Nuggets, and the PP Up, which, for me, as someone who does a lot of competitive, you really actually want these, as well as a pretty decent shot at getting an ability patch, which can be good for putting self-foddering. The counters for both of these are pretty much the same, or rather the counters for Dialga can all be used against Palkia, but not vice versa. For your attacking counters, when it comes to Dialga, they are going to be Arceus with the Pixie play, so Fairy type Arceus, Azumarill, Sylveon to a degree, Florges again to a degree, and Fluttermane again to a degree, with everything other than Arceus wanting the Shell Valve, with maxed out special stats, and for all of them, you're going to want to go for actually HP over speed, because remember, these things are level 75. They're not too impressive, as well as the Dialga will always lead off using Trick Room, so speed actually is completely irrelevant here, which is why Fluttermane is not as good of a pick as some of the others. Sylveon also is not as good as Azumarill, because even though it does get Draining Kiss and Pixelate, Azumarill does significantly more damage. Belly Drum is an incredibly safe setup against this thing. Even though Dialga does have access to Steel Beam, it's neutral, and it is a level 75 against a level 100, and Azumarill is pretty freaking bulky. The main reason why you want the Fairy type user that get Moonblast is this thing's entire moveset is special. Moonblast, 30% chance of debuffing the special attack, makes so this thing can't really hit you too hard. The main thing you want to dodge is just Draco Meteor, and this is applicable to both Dialga and Palkia, as Draco Meteor Stab is doubled because of the Terastallized Stab, the most powerful move they have against you. If you can dodge that, you really don't have anything to worry about. You want big, bulky special attackers here, or at least things that can take special hits kind of well. Arceus, pretty much barring your best one. It does get Acid Spray, because this thing is not part Steel as it normally is. You can actually hit it with Acid Spray, Judgment, and Recover. Fantastic. Azumarill, it's the patented Belly Drum Azumarill we all know and love. Even though the Dialga does get access to Iron Defense, it only uses it once or twice. It's not that big of a problem, because Azumarill will by far outstrip the damage of the others, even with Dialga using Iron Defense and with naturally higher physical defense. Because remember, you have huge power, and then you have Belly Drum. You are over 6 times powering this thing. It's kind of insane. For Palkia, all of those previous ones are applicable, and a couple of others. With the changeover from Dialga into Palkia, as well as the Gravity being in play, Azumarill is actually significantly more accurate now, but also Alolan Ninetales becomes viable, because it always leads off using Rain Dance. Even if it uses Fire Blast, its power is cut in half by the rain. And, especially bulky, you can actually use Blizzard in the Gravity effect, because Gravity, it's a bit of a little-known thing about Gravity, but when Gravity is used, it decreases the evasion of all Pokemon 2 stages. That means moves like Hurricane, Blizzard, Focus Mist, Stone Edge, Hypnosis, all become massively more accurate, meaning a Blizzard can now actually be used to hit really hard. Ninetales also does get access to Nasty Cloud, and it can be quite effective. Even though Palkia does get access to Thunder, Azumarill chunks those hits extremely well, so you can even bring something like an Ice Beam Manaphy if you'd like. Milotic also comes into play here, as even though it is not an Ice-type attacker itself, it can at least use Dragon and Ice-type moves for a little bit of chip damage. You can really throw any bulky special attacking Water-type against this thing that gets Ice Beam, and they do pretty well. Now for your supports. Pretty much our standard supports we've always had. Mew, Arceus, as mentioned before, but Cresselia is an unorthodox one that's fantastic. It does get Moonblast, it gets Lunar Blessing to heal all of its allies, and Helping Hand. So it can use Helping Hand, it can use Moonblast, it can debuff this thing, and it can heal them up. Skuntank and Alolan Muck, also fantastic because they are Acid Spray users and they do get Snarl. Again, use these if you're not running Azumarill, which Azumarill is the best one, and Skuntank and Alolan Muck may not fare the best against Dialga, but with Snarl, even Dialga doesn't really enjoy going against them because of the sheer level difference. The last ones are both your support Blissey, fantastic, Grimmsnarl, and Umbreon. Grimmsnarl, it gets Fake Tears, which is fantastic, Spirit Break, which is even more fantastic, it always debuffs special attack, not just have a chance of doing so, and it gets Screens. There's really not much that's not good about Grimmsnarl, it is fantastic. It does need to worry about Dialga's Steel Beam a little bit, but you're going to want to go for Palkia if you haven't beaten both of them already. If you beat both of them and you just want to grind them for the rewards, you're going to want to focus Palkia. And then Umbreon. Fake Tears, Screech, so it can support Blissey, so it can support Azumarill extremely well. Helping Hand, really not much that's not great, and it gets Snarl as well. Iron Moth is also kind of useful against Dialga because it does get Struggle Bug and it does get Acid Spray, and it can actually survive Earth Power, but I wouldn't really recommend using it even though it's kind of fun. And sort of a little side extra thing we're going to be doing here, because I have seen so many people bringing like things against this. There's a few Pokemon to not bring against these Dialga and Palkia raids. The big one's Lucario. I see a lot of people bringing Ice Lucario with Ice Punch against them. Terra Ice Lucario with Ice Punch. Do not bring Lucario against this thing. Even though Lucario is not weak to fire because of the rain, cutting the power of it to half, for Palkia, Dialga still obliterates this thing. Its offensive stats are significantly lower than the offensive stats of other Pokemon, and it's not great to use. Save the Lucario for rock-typey things, but also do not bring dragons. We love our dragons, but they are not good here. Draco Meteor is a 260 base power move before super effective. With super effective, it's 520. Any dragon is getting one shot by this thing, unless it is heavily debuffed, which means your timer is going to be run down a lot more aggressively. You want to stick with big, bulky special areas. Ice types, bit viable, but they do run the risk, especially against Dialga, of the weakness to Steel and the weakness to Fire, which both can have. They can work a little bit better against Palkia, but against Dialga, they are basically a no-go. That's the reason why Azumarill is pretty much your best answer for both of them. With Gravity and Effect of Palkia, it's perfectly accurate. It shrugs off Thunder. With Dialga, it shrugs off Steel Beam. And even with Dialga's higher defensive stats, there really isn't anything Dialga can do to Azumarill. You're going to want to actually have Terra Water on your Azumarill, specifically if you're going to go bring against Dialga, but against Palkia you can bring Terra Fairy. Because the Steel Beam is significantly more damaging to Azumarill than the Draco Meteor is. When it comes to Terra Water Azumarill versus Terra Fairy Azumarill against Dialga. 260 base power versus 280 base power. Steel Beam 140 base power move. So even though it does take a little bit of recoil damage, it's better to not have that little hit go off, because with Meteor, Dialga debuffs its own special attack. So there is that. Now again, if you use a special attack debuff and moving Snarl, it doesn't matter as heavily. But yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty good. But that is all. Once again, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more. I will see you guys next time, where we go over how Miss Briar is kind of possibly the big bad because of something they revealed in the trailer, and Berserker, Miraidon, and Koraidon. See you guys then.